All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really tough case. It forces you to ask some really hard questions about things like youth, justice, and, well, redemption. We're talking about the story of Sean Sellers, a killer at 16.
So let's just start with a number. A single, pretty stark number that really defines this entire story. 16. And look, this isn't just an age, right? It's a legal and ethical line, a boundary that was crossed in a way that, well, the United States hadn't seen for decades.
Think about that for a second. In 1999, Sean Sellers became the first person in 40 years to be executed for a crime he committed when he was only 16. That's just staggering. And it immediately brings up this huge, profound question that's really at the heart of this whole thing. How on earth did it come to this?
Okay, so to get a handle on this, we've got to go back to 1985 in Oklahoma City. A convenience store clerk is found murdered. At first, the police think, okay, this is probably a robbery gone wrong. Pretty straightforward, right? But the truth was way more disturbing.
So the first victim was Robert Bauer, a clerk at a Circle K. He was shot point blank. And like I said, police chalked it up to a botched robbery. But that theory just didn't quite fit. With no leads, the case went cold. For 6 whole months, nothing. The real reason for the murder? That wouldn't come out until another crime happened. One that was somehow even more shocking.
And when the killer, Sean Sellers, was finally caught, his reason for killing Robert Bauer had absolutely nothing to do with money. His motive? He told a friend, "I wanted to see what it felt like." Just let that sink in. It wasn't about a robbery, it was an experiment. A murder born out of a horrifying, chilling curiosity.
So you can see this terrifying escalation right here. In September of '85, he murders Robert Bauer, the store clerk. Fast forward just 6 months to March of '86, he actually tries to poison his own mother. When that doesn't work, he murders both his mother, Vonda, and his stepfather, Lee, while they're asleep in their beds. It's just brutal. And it didn't take long after that. He was arrested pretty quickly and confessed to all 3 murders.
All right, so now we get to the trial. And look, with a full confession, there was no question about if he did it. The whole thing really came down to why. And that's when his defense team came up with a truly unusual argument to explain what was going on in his head.
So what was this defense? They basically tried to paint this picture of a teenager who was completely consumed by darkness. They talked about how he was deep into satanic rituals, sometimes even drinking his own blood. He'd bring a satanic Bible to his high school classes. He even wrote, in his own blood, "I renounce God, I will serve only Satan." So at trial, his lawyers literally argued the devil made him do it. But yeah, the jury wasn't buying it.
So the verdict comes in, guilty on 3 counts of murder. And the sentence? The death penalty. Now here's a really critical piece of the puzzle. In 1986, Oklahoma law didn't have a sentence of life without parole. One of the jurors later said they were terrified that if they just gave him a life sentence, he could be out on parole in as little as 7 years. So to them, the death penalty felt like the only way to make sure he would never, ever get out.
But wait, because the story definitely doesn't end there. While he was on death row, a whole new version of Sean Sellers started to emerge. A total transformation that kicked off this huge, lasting controversy that followed him right up to the very end.
Yeah, this really created 2 completely different pictures of the man. On one hand, you have this redeemed soul. He became a Christian, started a prison ministry that apparently touched a lot of lives. He even had supporters like Archbishop Desmond Tutu. On the other hand, you have the master manipulator. Former wardens called him manipulative, said he was just on his best behavior for Christian visitors. And to make it even more complicated, 6 years after his conviction, he was diagnosed with multiple personality disorder, a diagnosis that, by the way, was never actually challenged in court. So you have to wonder, who was the real Sean Sellers?
So as his execution date, February 4th, 1999, got closer and closer, this case just exploded onto the international stage. Media from all over the world, TV crews from England, France, Germany, they all descended on Oklahoma. His final appeals were denied, and the clock was ticking. Okay, so now we're in the execution chamber. In his final moments, strapped to the gurney, Sellers looks at his stepfather's family. And what he says, it isn't an apology. It's more like a challenge and a plea. He tells them, all the people that are hating me right now, when you wake up in the morning,
You're not going to feel any different. Reach out to God and He will heal you. Don't hate all your lives.
And then, after saying that, he starts to sing a hymn. Set my spirit free that I might praise thee. Those were his last words. The lethal injection started, and he was pronounced dead at 12:17 a.m. His life, which began this awful journey with murder, ended with a song.
But, his execution didn't end the debate at all. If anything, it just turned up the volume on all the tough questions his case brought up. Questions that, honestly, we're still grappling with today.
Because his case really forced everyone to confront some really complex legal and ethical stuff. I mean, was it right to execute someone for crimes they committed as a kid? Should that late diagnosis of multiple personality disorder have played a bigger role? His execution even violated a UN convention. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. In 1988, the Supreme Court had ruled it was unconstitutional to execute anyone younger than 16. Sellers was exactly 16, so while it was technically legal in the US at the time, it really flew in the face of what the rest of the world was doing, and it just reignited this whole massive debate.
So in the end, the story of Sean Sellers, the Satanist, the killer, the born-again Christian, it just leaves us with this really haunting question, and there's no easy answer. Was his execution justice for the people he killed, or was it just one final, irreversible mistake in a life that was already full of them?